Hello, everyone. Today we are here with Msgeophilia.
Sup?
Is there anything you'd like to say before we get started?
Not particularly, but shout out to anyone who's actually really, watching this because I am the most awkward person ever. And yeah, good luck. All right,
You are a artist, so we have artist questions for you.
great.
First question: when did you first get started in art?
I actually have like a slightly different story to most people. I think whenever I hear people talk about art, especially really good people, I'm not saying that I'm really good, but like the people who I've seen interviews with before, they always say I grew up with a pencil in my hand, and that wasn't for me. Like I did art when I was like 10 to about, well not 10, but like when I was a kid to maybe 12, and I stopped. I just completely dropped it. I didn't touch a pencil. I didn't do anything. I was just like, can't do art, have to study, have to go to school, whatever. So for about 5 years, until I was like 16, 17, I didn't pay much attention to art. I didn't draw at all. I didn't do anything like that. And then started to pay attention to it more. Um, Obviously, I didn't like start drawing again anytime, soon after that. But when I was about 17 or 18, I actually did, like, I got a tablet and I started drawing again. I started drawing very specifically digitally. And I do feel like that's when I, quote unquote, started art. Um, so that's, hang on, am I answering the right question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I was just looking at the page and I thought that something changed. But yeah. Cool. Thanks. Sorry. Um, no. So I actually started maybe 5 years ago again, and that's when I took it as a serious part of like what I did rather than just like a thing that I do in class because it's mandatory and I happen to be kind of good. So I started at 18 and they look like scribbles, like child scribbles. I still have on one of my Tumblrs, I still have pictures that I did when I was like 12 and pictures that I did when I was 18. And the difference in quality is insane. Like, people forget that with art, it's like a muscle thing, muscle memory. If you don't use it, you lose the skill and you lose it very fast. So that's why it's really important for people to like keep drawing and keep doing something even if it's not a huge project or anything like that. Yeah, so what's the next question?
Next question: what kind of artwork do you produce?
uh Lots of stuff that makes me thirsty. Which is like any artist that I know will draw things that they like. I'm a huge gore hound. I like anything that's like has things to do with like mutilation, teratophilia, monsters, whatever. That's literally what I do, and it's almost all of it is digital. Like largely due to space issues, and like I'm a uni student, so I can't afford to sit down and wait for paint to dry for like two hours or whatever. I actually have to study most of the time, and anything that I do that's artistic is either done at work, or is done like when I have time. So I don't have time to do traditional media very often. That's why if you go to my portfolio, there's not a lot of traditional stuff. There's like one painting and a bunch of pencil sketches that I've recently uploaded, and that's about it. Yeah. I do character art as well. Like I've been trying to diversify and expand into environments and into things that are a little bit more things that have more application. But it's very difficult. Like I don't find environments as easy as say drawing a character, and I especially don't find drawing character faces very easy either. Like I don't identify faces very easily. So you'll see a lot of them have like obscured faces or much less detailed than the rest of the picture. I guess that kind of answers what kind of artwork I use or what kind of artwork I produce. Like it's not anything specific, if that makes sense. Like I'll do what appeals, but generally within those areas. What's next?
What medium and equipment do you use for your art?
Okay, so obviously I just talked about how I do digital art, so that's I guess you'd call that the medium.
Mhm.
I do pencil drawings as well. I work in a call center, and your hands are like idle most of the time, and I get very like destructive if I don't have something to do. So I do pencil drawings at work. But other than that, it's basically solely digital, and that's largely due to like accessibility. So I started with a bamboo tablet, like a bamboo fun, and I had that for 5 years. That thing did not break and did not like I didn't even realize I had spare nibs. I used the same nib for 5 years. So if you want like a shout out, anyone who's thinking of getting a tablet, bamboo is really good. Wacom, I think it is now, Wacom bamboo tablets. And they do Intuos now, I think. You can see how long it's been since I've had the bamboo tablet. I actually sent it to a friend of mine in England. But anyway, now I have a Cintiq. I did not buy this outright. I should probably mention that. I am a student, I must say again. I got it through a friend, and I got very lucky to get it. And it's probably the biggest investment and best piece of equipment I've ever used. Like, I would feel lost without it, and I must admit I feel really guilty because it functions as a second screen. So I feel really guilty if I use it as my primary screen and just like play a game on it, because it's like I have a specialist piece of equipment that I'm playing Undertale or something on. I'm not actually making use of its primary functions. Anyway, programs, because I know that a lot of people are like, oh, what program do you use to produce such and such? I like using Photoshop for coloring and digital illustration in general. I'm not a line art person. Like, there's very little line art in any of my digital pieces. I prefer edges, and edges are very easy to do in Photoshop. Like, I actually find them a little bit easier to identify and like adhere to than in Sci. But if you use line art, then I'm hugely into using Paint Tool Sci for that, because it's much easier. Um, when I do pencil drawings, I don't have any specific make of like pencil that I use, but I do use mechanical pencils. I don't really like to use like traditional sharpening pencils. I find that they smudge a lot, and because of the way I draw, like, my hands just wind up covered in lead. So I use mechanical pencils, and I have 0.5 millimeter, 0.9 millimeter, and 1.1 millimeter, and I use the 1.1 purely for shading, and I use 0.5 for sketching, and everything else is done with the 0.9. So like, I'm just having a look at some of the like drawings I got on my portfolio again to see if there's anything. Like, there's a picture of a guy with a wheel, and like, I did like a lot of the shading with that 1.1, and I don't know where I got it. Like, it's really generic, and it's because I know that's a very unusual like lead width. Like, I don't even know if they make it anymore because it's that old. But I did the shading on that with like this weird 1.1 like pencil, and then I just did everything else with the 0.5. So it's pretty useful to have. You know, lots of people who do, especially just like cartoony type drawings, I've noticed, use mechanical pencils because the lines are a lot nicer. If anyone else has comments on that, I don't know a lot about art, especially about traditional art, so they may have differing opinions. But like, they're good to have around, especially if you're just like a person who wants to sketch. No, anything else? Or what's the next question? Sorry.
Where do you get your inspiration?
So there's a way I can answer that that's like honest, and there's a way I can answer that kind of works better for people who are listening. Honestly, I like to draw things that are interesting to me, and that seems dumb and straightforward, but as I've said before, I draw what makes me thirsty. So that's why you have just like tons of muscular guys and stuff like hanging out in my artwork. Um, if you want to talk about where I actually get inspiration from, a lot of it's just what I find on Tumblr or Pinterest or wherever I happen to have a media presence. Like, I'm very inspired by environments, even though I don't do a lot of environmental artwork. So I actually have an inspiration tag on my personal Tumblr. It's like msgeophilia.com, tumblr.com/msgeophilia, sorry, /tag/inspiration. And a lot of that's like other people's artwork, anything that I find interesting, lots of photographs of things that, are a little bit odd or unusual, or, lots of rocks, which is obvious. I don't often look to specific artists for like for inspiration. Like I know there's this big thing about like doing master studies, and like you go to Da Vinci or something, and you're like, I'm going to study this painting. I'm going to replicate it detail for detail, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool and all, but I feel like yeah, it's very important. Don't get me wrong, but it's not the best. Like it's not the best way for me personally to learn. So even if I look at what other artists do, it's not like I sit down, I look at it, and I go, now I'm going to produce a painting or a sketch or whatever that has these elements from this picture that this artist has done in mind. Like I don't really do that. It's more, I'd rather go to a photograph or like pack my shit up and go to fucking into the city or something and look at people. Anything that I have time for at that particular point. I don't know. I hope that answers the question. Next question.
Are there any artists that influence your work?
I feel like I've kind of overextended with my last answer and talked about that. There are artists that do influence me. Like obviously like I said, I'm into gore. So like Geiger is one of my biggest, like I look to him as being someone who's very, very finely wrought things that he enjoys and things that, themes that he finds very powerful in his work. He's made them into undertones, and I really like that. I don't think there is any specific artist otherwise that I would look at. Like obviously there are artists, and like I could, if I thought about it for a lot longer, I could tell you like Len Yan, I think or Magdalena, I don't know her last name, but she's a Polish artist. She's very talented. I do look to her work a lot if I'm trying to look, especially for muted color tones, or how to make things look very shiny or very metallic. Like she's very, very good at that. I can tell you now though, there are works of art that influence me very, very greatly. And this is going to sound like pretentious as fuck, this is, one of those things where not everyone wants to say that this is a work of art, but video games to me are works of art, and they are one of the biggest influences on anything that I do. So like played Bloodborne recently, like suddenly everything that I did just went through this huge Lovecraftian, horrifying theme. And I wanted things to look Victorian and grungy and like it had been built upon through visceral layers of just like fear, and the architecture just seeped with madness, and that was something that I really wanted to reflect in my work. I don't think I did, to be honest. Like I didn't produce much around that period, mainly because I was too busy playing Bloodborne. But stuff like that is really important to me. It would be worth having a shout out as well to the people around me who like draw, and the artists who I personally follow on Tumblr and interact with. Like there's, I think her name's Renpen or Penren, Jill. She's really good. She's an incredible artist. There's also Artisans Hatter, who doesn't draw very much, but whenever she does, she has many good things in her future. So I'd like to see more from her. Then there's the other creepypasta artists as well, like Bleeding Heart Works, My Hat is Blue, Mama Midnight, all of those people. They have beautiful work, and it's always good to see them working because it does inspire me to continue working as well. Next question.
How has art changed you in your life?
That is a good question. It's made me really salty. Like that sounds really silly, but obviously I'm an economics student now. Like I am literally 2 months out of finishing a degree, and sometimes I sit back and I go, man, I really wanted to be an artist. And it does make me a little bit salty, because I'm just like, man, I could have spent the 4 years that I was like, learning about Gini coefficients and, drawing, diagrams and analyzing data, and I could have put it towards drawing, and I didn't, so like this is a thing that I've done in my spare time, and, if I get a couple of hours in a week, then that's good. So it's made me like very aware of the fact that everyone has these decisions that they make. And I think it's helped me become very empathetic to others as well, especially when, I meet people who are like middle-aged accountants, and they hate their jobs and they hate their lives. And, they're salty because their wife is no longer beautiful, whatever the hell it happens to be. Like, that's actually a person. Like, that's, you know, not trying to be sexist or anything. Like, that's actually just like a person that I know. And like, they're the first person that springs to mind when I say this. Like, it's helped me empathize with people who have made this decision to do what they know is a good economic decision that will help them get a job instead of doing what they love. And that's probably the most poignant way it's changed my life. Like, obviously other ways, like I've met a lot of interesting and wonderful people through it as well. You know, like I do a lot of fan art, and every time I, you know, do a new batch of fan art, I get new people coming in and they'll talk to me, and you know, they'll want to know about me, and you know, I want to know about them too. You know, I love talking to people who are interested in interacting with me. You know, I've met some very great friends through that, friends who I've had for years and years now, and you know, so I think the other thing that the way art's changed my life is it's just made me more of a person that's social and less of a person that's like, you know, who cloisters himself off and tries to, you know, compete with themselves constantly for like an unattainable goal. That's the other thing. Art has made me a perfectionist. Like, everyone's like, oh, you know, love your art for what it is. I am not like that. I am just like, you know, it's got to be better every time, and that's definitely a thing that I would not recommend for other people. So next question.
When did you get interested in drawing creepypasta art?
Oh, that's actually, I actually know the date. I know I said I wouldn't be the person who does this, but I'm looking up something so I can get the exact date. And it was September 13, 2013. Because Mr. Creepypasta released a Nassie's Goatman story. And that was like, all right, so I should mention I existed on X for years and years and years before this. Like, I think it was like 08, 07 maybe when I was on. I was very underage. Like, I think everyone I know has accessed the interbuts on that part of the interbuts when they were underage. But anyway, so on the paranormal board, used to write creepypasta, used to do like these challenges across the holidays and stuff because I was a summer fag. And I completely ignored creepypasta for like years after that. Like, I was just like, you know, fuck whatever, you know, not into horror, no longer interested in this kind of stuff. Then 2013, wanted to start looking for material on beasts, come across the Goatman creepypasta. This is kind of cool. Find out that people actually do readings of creepypasta. And then like a day later, or maybe 2 days later, I find out that some dude who I have no clue about who he is at that point, Mr. Creepypasta, has done like a reading of it. And I was like, you know, okay, sure, I'll listen to this while I'm at my previous job, which was like animal care. So, you know, just exist with earbuds in. And like, I was scared for the whole time. It was amazing. And I hadn't felt like that for a while. So I was like, you know, let's start, you know, going and listening to creepypasta. And I wanted to interact with these people, and I wanted to get to know the community. And one of the biggest ways I do that is through art, because I'm not necessarily good, but it is a thing that I offer. And it's a thing that I, back then that I offered, you know, just as practice. So I would draw personas for people. Like, I signed up to the Creepypasta Network, drew personas for people. You know, sometimes, like some of the still existing creepypasta narrators, there are like details that I like threw into off the cuff of their first illustration that are still there. Like, I think it was the Dark Unicorn was one of the people who I actually did an original illustration for. And so like, sometimes I like look at the, you know, the following like drawings that he's done from like Chaotic Ghosts and stuff, and they're brilliant. They're so much better than anything I could have done back then. So, you know, I'm really glad to see that his image has taken off. But like, it's stuff like I've seen that and I'm just like, you know, that looks a little bit like the thing that I did way back when. I think I did some for story time with Kayla Chaos as well. I think I did one for her at one point. I'm not trying to name drop. I'm just trying to remember like what I did. I remember I gave her persona a very long braid for some reason, and I feel like that might still be a salient feature. I don't quite remember. I haven't seen a lot about the personas except for the narrator struck sprites done by Mama Midnight. Anyway, I still draw creepypasta art every so often now. I don't do it as much as I used to because I don't have a lot of time. But I got interested in it years ago, and I still do it. And I do it when there's like something particularly interesting or a particularly fascinating sounding monster or something like that comes up. I hope that answers the question. I didn't just go on a massive tangent. I feel like I did, and I'm very sorry.
No, no worries. That was really interesting.
Yeah. I'm not old enough to be historical, but I have a lot of memory of like other areas and stuff like that. So, like creepypasta.com, whatever. I actually had a story published at creepypasta.com, which sounds really dumb, but it was like one of the biggest like achievements that I'd done at that point. So I was like, yes, I can write. What? All right, next question.
What creepypasta character or persona do you enjoy drawing the most?
So I can answer this several different ways. There's a particular character that I've drawn the most, which is the creature from Fenta Woods, and that's because it was like one of the first like creepypastas that I listened to beyond the Goatman story, and it was also one of the first that I illustrated. So I did return to it, like to see if I had achieved more in my artwork over the course. Like I still have the drawings, the ink drawings I did for that, just chilling on my wall. I'm looking at them right now. They're pretty horrifying. So I like that one. But for things that I enjoy drawing the most from creepypasta, I like things that aren't commonly drawn, whether because they're difficult or because they're like not often used. And I also especially like humans that have changed. Like I like things that are terato. So I'm into like diseased people and like deformities and stuff like that. Like they're favorites. I can't think of any off the top of my head that would fit that very specifically because I obviously don't do a lot of creepypasta drawings because of my time. But like stuff like that is what I enjoy the most. As for personas, I do like to draw my own. Like it's a little bit self-indulgent, but I have the little Geophilia fawn, and I do think she's very cute. So I like to do her as like a little bit of a she's fridge horror. Like I like horror that you have to go away and think about. So like when you look at her, she looks fine until you realize that like she's in a lot of pain and she has like exposed wounds all over her that are like pretty. So but like if I had to talk about someone else's, I do like drawing Mr. Creepypasta's persona just because it's the first one that I ever drew, and I drew him at a point when I was really leveling up, so I have like fond memories of like suddenly learning how to pack more detail and more color and stuff into drawings at that point. Next question.
What art project are you currently working on?
All right, so let's hang on. I'm going to actually just open Photoshop and find out what I'm working on that works for all ages. Oh, actually, I do know what I'm doing. Okay, so I've been trying to do Inktober because it is really good to just like practice and like draw as often as you can. Like, I don't have a lot of time. Like, I keep saying that, but you know what? When you get to be like a final year uni student, like this is for anyone who listens to this who's like young, you're thinking about going to college or whatever, you will never have time. I'm sorry. That's how it works. Between work and between college, you will never have time for anything that you love. You have to make time. Anyway, so I'm doing Inktober, and I have 2 sketches that I did that I was going to ink in my little sketchbook. And I was just like, you know what? These are really cool, and I actually want to do them as larger pieces. Shout out for everyone preparing for the Skeleton War. I'm doing Sans and Papyrus from the game Undertale. So anyone who likes those should probably check back and see how I'm doing with those, because the sketches for them were kind of popular. They got a lot more attention than my work usually does, and they were just sketches. So I can't wait to see how people respond. Me doing proper like ink drawings of them. But yeah, so that's the project that I'm working on now, is like dumb fan art for a game that I happen to really like. I do a lot of fan art, so chances are even the stuff that I'm doing on Photoshop is, yeah, definitely like the other project that I'm working on is like just an ink drawing of like, some pufferfish thing. Like I don't know if I'll finish it, but I haven't been doing a lot of Photoshop work just because of work. All right. I don't know. I hope people hear like Undertale because I am pretty obsessed with it right now. They'll probably mention it or make a bone pun at least once in this. Oh, actually, we've only got a couple of questions left, so probably not. You guys have been spared. Okay. You really have. I'm so. I feel like that was a pun itself. God. You really have. Like, I'm pretty terrible at the moment, and like it does show in a lot of the work that I've been doing. Anyway, next question.
Okay, we are actually on the last question.
Okay,
what is
cool.
a fun fact about yourself?
I'm trying to think of one that like doesn't or like is appropriate. Or like I've talked about economics and stuff, but I guess like a fun fact or like a fact that's not horribly awful or dumb is I'm thinking about going into doing honors next year, which is an extra year of university work, and I want to do my I actually want to do my project on health economics, which is a very like broad area, but I'm very specifically like worried about equitable access for low income groups to healthcare. So I'm thinking about doing that as as my honors project. So like it's not really a fun fact, it's more like look at this turbo nerd. But like like I'm pretty bland if I'm not like talking about art and stuff or games. So there's not much to say. I mean, other stuff is like I have dogs and like I have cats, and the reason why I mention this is because I can see my cat looking at me right now from my bed, and I'm just like, you have no idea what I'm doing or why I'm like waving my arms around like an idiot. But yeah, that's I'm not entirely like interesting when it comes to just me personally. Anyway, so I hope that answers that question.
Is there anything you'd like to say before we wrap this up?
Shout out to everyone who who's known me before this point. I don't know if this is going to like get me any amazing attention or whatever, but like anyone who supports me with my artwork, like you guys are amazing. And also if anyone has questions or like wants to correct me, like if I've said something dumb that I don't remember or whatever, by all means, I don't know, guess drop it into the comments for here, or you can contact me on Tumblr. Go to either of my Tumblr blogs, my portfolio or my personal page, which is msgeophilia.tumblr.com. Portfolio is geophiliaart.tumblr.com. And I'll try and get back to you. I am like super awful at responding to things in a goodly amount of time. So if you don't get a response, it's not that I'm ignoring you. I am probably just like flailing in like a heap of paperwork and don't have forgotten about everything. Also, I am open for commissions, and if anyone wants to check that out, there's a link in the description as well. I'm just shilling myself. I'm sorry, like shill. But yeah, that's it. That's all. Yeah. Do you have any further questions or any comments or anything like that?
That is it.
Cool.
Just so people know, Google has changed the layout of the Hangouts. So if you have asked any questions during, like while this is live, you'll have to repost them in the comments after the video is done for them to actually show up. But yeah, make sure to do that if you have any questions for Geo, and definitely make sure to check out all the links in the description and show love and support. And
thank you. I mean, just thanks for listening. I mean, like, thanks for anyone who tuned in. I don't know if anyone did, but because it's like quite late over there and it's like a weird time over here too. It's like 8 p.m. So everyone I know is having dinner. Like, just thanks for anyone who sits through this, because I am like, I don't know. I hate my voice, so I'm just like, if anyone's listened through this, like, I don't know, I'll draw you like a stick figure or something. Have a good time, guys.
And yeah, okay, that is it for now. So
right,
bye, everyone.
Right, bye.